our thoughts 6 months later with the Ally X.
Well, I mean, can I just address the elephant in the room at the start
Not
of it?
clickbait, AJ. It's not clickbait.
I was trying to count how many months it was since we got the
I
press
can
unit.
count.
Yeah, and it's 5.5 months since we've had it.
Up to 6 months.
So it's coming up to 6 months since we had the ROG Ally X.
Yeah.
The hype and hysteria has died down somewhat.
Has it?
For most people, apart from Andy. But I wanted to give a kind of a long-term kind of not just review, but just the things that have come up in our journey of both having one for 6 months now, or coming up to 6 months. I'm not allowed to talk about the one that I've still got. The things that have come up, the friction points, the frustrations, any pitfalls, the reasons perhaps not to buy it, but also all the positives that have come from it and how perhaps it's just changed the way you play games.
Yes. This is the tomtoc G47 travel bag. It's tailor-made for almost all handhelds. We've paired it with the Asus ROG Ally X due to the removable W-shaped screen and joystick protector inside. There's also ample room to store all of your accessories inside. With high-quality YKK zippers and a water-repellent surface, this could be the best travel case yet. Save up to 25% directly from the tomtoc website this Black Friday between November the 21st and December the 6th. Link in the description.
The biggest thing, and I said it almost straight away, I think I had my version for maybe 2 weeks. And there was just this overriding feeling of this is the first handheld that has truly changed how I consume games.
Yes. Yeah.
It like totally changed everything. The Switch is the Switch.
Yes.
It was a hybrid console, first of all. Absolutely straight up facts. The Switch is the Switch.
Well done.
I've been AJ. I'll see you next time. I don't know why he invites me into these things. But it's a hybrid console. I played it almost entirely docked.
Yes, see, I was the opposite.
Yeah. But I was never particularly into handheld gaming before.
Yes.
When you are like the handheld lover, that's your thing. The Steam Deck, I didn't jump into. I loved the idea and the principle of it. I loved the ease of it. The UI is fantastic.
Yeah.
But because I didn't have a Steam library,
Yes.
it was like, I'm not going to start a whole new games catalogue.
Yes.
I've got my own games catalogue problems here.
Yes, true.
But the ROG Ally X, because it's just a Windows 11 machine, it suddenly opened up beyond the Steam library and Game Pass was available. And it just turned into this Game Pass machine for me, which is probably underutilizing it slightly.
Yes, yeah.
But it did mean I have access to all the Xbox game library that's on Game Pass, and I could play it anywhere, anytime. And suddenly I was playing games for like short stints at any moment, and it felt like that gaming had opened up to me again.
Yes.
When before it was always a big deal. I had to sit in front of a TV or sit in front of a computer.
Yes.
Suddenly I could just, I've got 10 minutes, I can just have a quick play.
And I think part of that comes into being able to run these games at considerable performance.
Yes, absolutely. It's the first time I've experienced a handheld that felt like, in some situations better, but at least level with my console experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of like performance. I can play any of these games and it feels like I'm playing it on a console.
Yeah, 1080p, like quite a lot of the time 60 FPS.
VRR, so
VRR,
it constantly feels smooth. There's no like not that frame dropping kind of judderiness. Not getting tearing anyway. It's it's perfect.
Yeah,
in that sense.
Yeah, it's a brilliant situation.
So I think if you've not got into handheld gaming yet and you're kind of considering a next piece of hardware for gaming, I would 100% recommend it for that.
Yes, yeah.
I will say as well that my initial fears of it being a Windows machine and being too frictioned for that, and like getting back into Windows and all the kind of friction points that would occur, weren't as bad as I had imagined they would be.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I was expecting it to be, I'm kind of really getting into PC stuff here. And it wasn't all that bad.
No.
There was some friction. There is some friction.
Yes. But Armoury Crate does a really good job of keeping all your games within.
Yes.
And you can pretty much just launch stuff from there. You don't really have to deal with Windows too much.
No, you don't. And I will say it's kind of one of the pitfalls of it is that when you're in Armoury Crate or you're in your game launches almost exclusively, but then Windows will do something.
Yes.
One of the updates, there'll be something, and then you will have to go and you are reminded that you are using Windows 11. In that moment, I hate it. Honestly, it's a stupid emotion to have.
Yeah, yeah.
But as soon as I'm reminded that I'm using Windows 11, I'm like, oh, this thing.
Yes, yeah. I get you though, because you're coming from a console
Yes.
perspective, and I can see why that's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's almost like the opposite for me, because I love that it's got Windows 11.
Yeah.
Because of it's just a PC. Do you know what I mean? The doors are open for everything that you can possibly do. And anything that you would want to do. It's not like Steam OS where you're forced to be on Linux, and then you're limited still, I get what you mean. If there was just like a Steam style OS on there.
My God, they need it.
You could just boot into like effectively like Xbox mode or whatever it might be, then totally I get that. And yes, you can, of course, install Bazite, but then you're taking away all the good things of Windows here.
Can I just say that I totally don't understand why people would do that? What, you want just like a better performing Steam Deck? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't quite get it, because it feels like you are gaining performance and getting that ease of like Steam UI.
Yes. Yeah.
But you are taking away some of the big features that you get with being on Windows.
Yeah.
The kind of the anti-cheat stuff and some of the multiplayer games.
Absolutely, yeah.
That are no longer available to you.
Yes. I mean, you could dual boot, have both.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. I've got Steam app on Windows. I'll just launch Steam. Do you know what I mean?
I think when you start getting into the weeds like that, and if that's what you do, then it's wicked. And I get it for you, that's fine. But I think when you start getting into the weeds, you start losing what these machines are kind of offering.
Yeah.
And in my mind, the Steam Deck was the first. The ROG Ally X is an extension of this and a progression. And it's allowing dullards like me that come from the console world into the PC space in a really simple way.
Yes.
Look at all of this stuff you could have over here.
Yeah.
But without getting too into the weeds of like digging into this machine, dual booting and all of that.
Yeah.
No,
you just want to buy a thing and work.
I just want to buy a thing and play games.
Yes,
I don't want to have to fuss around.
Yes, yeah. Which again is one of the negatives of this is the initial setup.
It's lengthy.
That's the biggest problem with it, because it is just a total Windows machine. You have to deal with all the jank of Windows.
Yeah.
And that's going to take you several hours, to sign into everything, to download all your apps, to assign stuff, to uninstall all the bloatware on Windows. But once that's happened, you do it once and it's done.
That's true.
But if you bought a Steam Deck, you have none of that.
I will say as well, in the initial setup, which is like a couple of hours of really messing around, I'll say it's the only point in using it that I wish it had a trackpad.
Yeah.
After that, I've not considered it at all.
Yeah.
I will admit I don't play real-time strategy games.
No.
Where a trackpad's going to be really important.
Absolutely.
But after that initial setup, I haven't needed the trackpad for any kind of user interfacing. It's one of the biggest criticisms that it has.
Yes.
I think the two standout criticisms that it has is a lack of OLED, which we've addressed in a video quite recently.
Yes, you must go watch that.
The other one I see all the time in our videos is no trackpad. If it had a trackpad, at least one, I'd buy it straight away.
And I agree. I think the next revision, the Ally 2, should have a singular trackpad just for navigating Windows. I'm actually so used to using the sticks that I'm fine with it now. Yeah. But it is clunky. It would be much more precise with the trackpad.
It's not very intuitive either. I don't think everyone gets it straight away.
Yeah, It clicked with me because it is just a mouse on its side.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So like
you got the trackball and then the buttons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the way I see it. Is it's just your hands just turned, and it works perfectly for me, and that's great. So I don't think it's a big problem. But
is there any other
get it.
kind of basic pitfalls that you came across with it? Was anything that you're like, that annoys me?
I can't really think of anything. I was trying to think of stuff, but I mean, the only thing really is to get annoyed about the Windows setup or the fact that Windows is there. But again, the fact that it is just a Windows device
it's a real rough with the smooth, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends what you want from it.
I fully believe, and it's kind of always nailed on that's going to happen, a kind of game-focused UI for handhelds from Windows or from Microsoft is so important.
Yes.
So it mirrors the Steam Deck's ease, its accessibility. On the Steam Deck, you can go back into a desktop mode and you can dig around behind the scenes if there's anything you need to do.
Yes,
which is what they should be implementing on
On here,
Yes.
yeah. And I suppose that's where Armory Crate is trying to fill that gap. And
Yeah.
I think it does a good job
Asus have papered over the craps.
They have papered over the crap, indeed. They really did.
I said crepes, not
Yeah.
craps.
Oh, right. Okay.
They've papered over the cracks for Microsoft
Yes.
in how good Armory Crate now is.
Yeah.
Apparently it didn't used to be.
No.
I hadn't experienced it before.
Well, that's it. I think like Windows itself needs to adapt to these devices just to make the experience easier. You know, get away from all the bloatware, setting it up as a laptop.
Yeah.
Like, if you want that stuff, it's still Windows, just install it later,
Yeah.
but don't put it on as a start. So you've got Windows Home, you've got Windows Professional, there should be Windows Compact or
Yeah.
something, like from the get-go.
Windows Handheld.
Your Windows Handheld, whatever it is. And the same with the Xbox app should be the big picture mode. You should be able to turn this into an Xbox handheld.
Yeah.
And boot to it.
Yep.
You know, so that's the first thing that you see come up, like if you want to. For someone like you, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that just use this as a Game Pass machine.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I've got every launch you can imagine going, and I find Armory Crate really good. Personally.
It is. Yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to be one of the biggest letdowns was Asus's like software. Thought this is going to be janky. I've had bad run-ins with Asus software in the past.
Yeah.
And I was like, meh. But this blew me out of the water. I was like, wow, this works.
Can I now address some of the hidden costs?
Yeah, okay.
And that is literally, it's not that there's like in hardware purchases you have to do. It's not like weird like add-ons. It's what this will then lead you to then want to buy.
Yeah. So, I mean, off the bat, like I did.
I can see something straight away right in front of me.
Well, there's a grip.
Yeah, grip case.
Grip case. I've got thumbstick caps on there. I've got back paddle cap things to extend them with this thing. So there's add-ons like that.
Day one, you upgraded the storage
that's
inside.
The thing. I mean, 1 terabyte isn't enough for most people.
Not anymore, no.
But I think it should be, if you're playing a game, you only need that game and maybe a few indies or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't need to sit on your whole library.
No.
But us PC gamers like to do that. Yeah. So day one, I was like 2 terabyte.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact that this is a 2280.
I mean,
size,
quite frankly, you did a whole tutorial on doing that.
Yes, I did. Yes.
On tearing your ROG Ally X apart day one.
Yes.
You managed to successfully do it. There is someone in our Discord, a channel member, who managed to destroy their ROG Ally X day one.
Yeah, day one, broke it.
So I will say some of those kind of upgrades where you're starting to have to prize it apart, you do it absolutely at your own risk.
Yes.
And it is a risk.
Yes.
Because you can easily break things.
Absolutely. Everything's so small. All the ribbon cables and latches are very small and need delicate surgery, you know. So attempt at your own risk. And I'd really only recommend it to sort of intermediate / advanced PC builders.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with it myself. Because I would have the approach of, like you said, I would only install like the game that I'm playing right now.
Yeah.
Internet connections are so good now in most places that you play that downloading the next game isn't that much of a headache.
Yeah. And you know, in America, they sell 2 terabyte ones now. I think it's GameStop offer a 2 terabyte Ally X, and I assume they've just upgraded them themselves and then selling them as brand new.
Oh, they're doing it themselves.
I think so. It could.
Because I haven't heard from Asus that they're doing that.
No, but I mean, we're with the PR UK side,
yeah,
aren't
it's
we?
true.
So, but in America, there is 100% 2 terabyte models. It's $100 more, and you can buy it off the shelf with a 2 terabyte installed, so you don't have to break yours day one. But there's another cost, obviously, just that.
Yes.
So, and then I imagine if you wanted to go down the micro SD route, that's another cost.
Okay, now this is interesting because one of the biggest flaws of the original, the Z1 Extreme version, was the micro SD slot was frying people's SD cards and failing basically.
Yes. Yeah.
You've not had that issue?
No.
It seems like it was a fault that they knew about.
They fixed it on the original.
And they fixed it on the original. So
after the first few months, they changed the motherboard, and it's worked. And on this one, it's a different board again with a different location and everything. So it's fine.
And cooling is so much better on this. I can't imagine getting overheating components.
I don't think it was a case. I think that's a misconception. People think it was getting fried by heat, and it wasn't. I think it was like a capacitor problem.
Oh, okay.
So it was totally different, but most people think it's that.
So it's worth saying there will be hidden costs
Yes.
Whenever you get into any new ecosystem, any new piece of hardware, you're going to end up spending more money than the thing itself.
Yeah.
Everything you do is like that.
And maybe you go down the route where I went down and then start building an eGPU.
Well, thank you for that segue, because that's exactly where I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
It is the rabbit hole that is the PC master race.
Yes. Yeah.
And it will happen to you. It's just a matter of time.
Yes.
Because it is a PC, because it is Windows 11, because it's got very good I/O.
Yeah.
You're suddenly going to be tinkering a lot.
Yeah.
You're going to be spending just as much time trying to get the best FPS out of a game as you are playing the game.
Yes. Yeah.
I've got 2 hours tonight. Why is the frame rate dropping in this game? You're going to spend 2 hours tinkering with every setting in that game.
Yeah.
And then you realise, now it's running stable. I'm tired. I'm going to finish.
Yes.
How many times has that happened to you?
All the time. But the thing for me with the eGPU route was this performs so well in handheld.
Yeah.
And I love just sitting in front of the TV,
100%.
just playing on it handheld. Like, it still blows my mind. 6 months later, I'm still opening up games and being like, this is incredible.
Really, it feels like the future.
Like, it's
really
insane. It really is insane. But there's some times where I'd be like, you know what? I got the TV to myself. I want to play it on the TV.
Yeah, why not?
You know? But then obviously you can dock this, and this is a misconception some people have, is that, the performance would be better or worse docked. No, that's not the case. The performance is going to be exactly the same. And I see people comment this as well, thinking screen size matters. That's not a thing, right? No. So as long as you're playing at the same resolution.
Yeah.
So let's say you're running the handheld at 1080p and you're getting 60 FPS, let's say.
If you're outputting at 1080p?
Exactly. If you plug it in and play on a 4K 10 million inch TV, as long as you're playing at 1080p with the same settings, you're going to get the same FPS.
Yes.
Nothing's going to change. If anything, it might get better because you've got it in turbo mode, 30 watt.
Yeah.
So you might actually get a slight better bit of performance because on battery alone, you can only push 25.
I think perhaps the misconception happens because they are they're stretching out a 1080 image onto a 4K panel.
Yes.
There's always also then the temptation to try and up the resolution to make that image look better.
That's the thing. If you change the resolution and try and output 4K, then you're going to have problems.
Yes.
But stretching the same resolution to any size screen, the size of the screen doesn't matter. No. It's the resolution itself. So that then led me to being like, I'm going to play it docked. But then I was like, it'd be nice to play at 4K, you know? It'd be nice to get some more FPS and have like higher resolutions. Because this 7-inch screen looks amazing, even on like low settings on games, you know? I normally settle for medium and just take a bit of a performance hit and everything looks so good. But obviously on a big screen, sometimes you want a bit more than that.
Yeah.
And I sold a PC, I sold my laptop, like my gaming PC and stuff. So I was like, well, this is all I've got now, you know? So I've got the Xbox and stuff, but I was like, maybe it could be better. You know? And it's got that USB 4 port, which is Thunderbolt compatible.
Yeah, okay.
So I went down the GPU route, built one, got plenty of videos on the channel.
Everyone knows. Anyone's a subscriber knows.
So check that out. But now I'm able to play this portably wherever I want, getting incredible like experiences on the go.
Yep.
And with 2 cables plugged in, I can then throw it onto my 4K TV and be playing at 4K at like 90 FPS on most games.
Would you say you have now created the ultimate hybrid console?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally...
It's still a PC. It's not like a Switch. You don't just dock it and it works. Like, you know, like there's still a couple of workarounds, but it's not hard.
No.
And I've not been having any problems. So, yeah, it's great. Obviously, this is real down the route, like, you know, into the weed stuff. And
and it's expensive.
And you've got to have some knowledge, I would say. You know, when you start building stuff like this, it's different than building a PC. Or you just subscribe
to the channel and watch your tutorials.
Yeah,
guys.
Exactly.
Just do that.
You could do that. You could do that.
I think you could fully copy your build from watching your eGPU videos.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have zero problems.
Yeah, you could totally build it, you know, from watching those videos for sure. But obviously you don't need to go down that route.
No.
And just playing it docked at 1080p or just playing it handheld is enough for most people.
Yeah.
And I think you could totally just buy this off the shelf and have no worries. You don't need to do any tinkering. I mean, when you got yours, you didn't even set it up.
Well, no.
You signed into Windows and just started playing.
Yeah, I was like, well, I don't know how long I've got this for. I'm not going to bother setting it up. I'm just going to play.
Yeah.
And also, it was a nice kind of A/B test. Yours being like you are totally customizing and tuning it, and mine I'm just not.
Yes, and it still ran great.
Perfect,
absolutely great.
I've had zero problems with it.
And that's the thing. Like, has this hype worn down? When you said at the beginning, for me, I went into this with the opposite of hype.
Yeah.
I was skeptical.
Very.
You know, I was like, I'm not going to like this. Not going to like Windows on a handheld. It's going to be buggy. The software is going to suck. You know, and I just expected it to be rubbish. After booting up the thing, within the first couple of days, I was completely won over.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the future.
Yep.
You know, like playing stuff like Call of Duty, playing Destiny, like all these anti-cheat games that are not available on the Steam Deck, and running them insanely well.
Yeah.
And that 1080p screen I was skeptical of. I thought you'd never see it on such a small screen.
What's the point?
And comparing, you know, the Steam Deck versus this, like you could see the difference. The Steam Deck looks muddy in
I will say,
comparison.
I know we've done a whole video on why they didn't put an OLED panel
Yes.
in that, but I will say the panel that's in it is utterly beautiful.
It's a really good
surprisingly nice.
Really good. And that VRR just hides any sort of roughness.
So the question is now, like, we're 6 months in, which typically in PC land means we're about halfway through its life.
Yeah.
Because we often see with the PC companies this kind of annual
Refresh
cadence
often.
of
Yeah,
refreshing. We don't know how long this particular generation is going to last. There is obviously now new hardware that has been released, new processors, new APUs and stuff that is now on the market.
Yeah.
So how long we've got left, we're not sure until the next refreshes. So if someone that doesn't have one yet, and we're coming up to the Christmas period and everything, should they consider getting one now or wait for a potential?
It's a tough one. So just to finish up where I was going with the hype thing, 6 months on, the hype's still there for me. Every day I pick this up, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not picking this up thinking, wish I didn't buy that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Every time I load a game, I'm like, wow. You know, so that is a selling factor in itself. If you're looking to get one of these, that's great. The other thing is Asus themselves said, we don't really want to be refreshing every year. So they've said that. They said we want to hold off. And the only reason this came so fast after the first one is because the first one had teething issues.
Yes, it did.
You had the SD card problem. The battery life sucked because it was so low.
Yeah.
The ergonomics weren't great. You know, the cooling wasn't great. Like, there was problems. So this is like the 1.5, the V1.5. It's not a V2. This is the fix the problems that were in the original. And then from this point, they've said we don't want to upgrade all the time, which is good because you don't want to be dropping £800, you know, $800 every year on a device like this.
The other thing I will say as well about if you're on the fence, because quite often the concern is, especially when there's a new entry into a space, like Asus is a relatively new entry into the handheld space.
Yeah.
How long are they going to support this for? Are they just going to drop it like it's hot? We've seen those problems in the past. Their support for this has been incredibly ongoing and incredibly good.
And it gets updates all the time.
Constant updates.
You know, like fantastic. Far more than any of the other PC handheld spaces.
Yeah.
You know, especially like I see people complaining about the Lenovo Legion Go all the time. Great device, but it hardly gets updated.
I'd say their support for this seems to be on par with Valve support for the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
It's,
which surprised me itself too.
Yes, 100%.
Know? So I'm definitely surprised in Valve for how well they've catered for the Steam Deck. Like I love what they're doing there. Still love the Steam Deck. But I'm really surprised by how well Asus have backed this.
So would you recommend someone to buy it now?
I would, yeah. I personally would, because the next iteration of APUs that we've seen coming onto the market anytime now, or within next year, which will be Strix Point style RDNA 3.5 stuff, that's only like an incremental
it's not a
upgrade.
full generational
It's
leap,
not a full generational leap. And yes, we will see slightly better performance. You will see better battery life because it'll be running like at lower powers and stuff. But this is like going to be kind of like PS4 to PS4 Pro kind of
very good
market rather than PS4 to PS5.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say even if it does come out next year with, you know, a Strix Point chip, probably wait another year, because I reckon we're 2 years away from it being worth upgrading. And even then, it all comes down to you.
What games you're playing.
Exactly.
Because if you consider how, and I'm going to get hate for this, how underpowered the Steam Deck is by comparison.
It is, though. It's fact now. It really is.
But it's still a valid and still a current piece of hardware.
Excellent device.
If you're playing certain types of games, it's absolutely the best type of device for it.
And it could last 10 years.
Easily.
Yeah.
And if we want a good example of that, and this is this is the opposite end of the spectrum, just look at the Switch.
The Switch is the Switch.
The Switch is the Switch, as I said famously. That's my quote. But you're into the 8th year, but because it's very specific types of games on that piece of hardware, yes, the hardware is obsolete pretty much now, but those games, you still have a good experience playing those games on that piece of hardware.
Yes.
So it depends on the types of games you're playing. But right now, for pretty much all games, this is a powerhouse.
Yes.
I would say it's totally worth the money, but I will acknowledge that it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but you're getting a lot of machine here.
Yeah.
You've got potential to have this as an actual PC.
Yeah.
Plug it into a screen, put a keyboard and mouse on it. You can have a workstation. You can have something to study on.
Yeah.
You can play games on it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can plug an eGPU into it, which will make the life of it longer and have this straddle the side. This is like the PC player's best friend, in my opinion.
And when you consider the price of the PS5 Pro right now, which is the same price point basically, you can consider the amount of versatility, accessibility, portability, all of the games that are available from all the launchers, including PlayStation.
Yes, yeah.
If it were me now and I had that kind of budget to buy something, I'd be buying that over the PS5 Pro.
Yeah, because that's so specific.
So specific,
it
so
only
niche.
does PlayStation.
Only does PlayStation games.
This does everything. And the battery life we haven't even touched on, which was one of the biggest upgrades
it's
from
huge.
the first one. It is massive. And if you were talking about game specific, if you're someone that plays indie games or retro titles, you're going to get battery for days.
Yes.
Literally, But even AAA games, you can get like a few hours pushing this like to the max.
Yep.
It's amazing. It really is.
I will say there's a whole area we've not even touched upon in our journeys with this at all, and that's emulation.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people are always looking for the next best emulating machine. I've not touched it purely because I kind of feel like the Steam Deck, that's the Steam Deck's place.
It was, yeah. I think just purely because Steam Deck's so easy to set up with, and it's the cheaper device. Why spend 800 quid if you can...
And you've got that beautiful OLED panel. You don't need to worry about frame rate, so VRR isn't important.
Yeah.
I would, if you're looking for an emulation machine, I would go for the Steam Deck.
Yes, however...
Save the money.
Depends on what you're emulating.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're trying to emulate like PS3 stuff, Xbox 360, this is the way to go, because this has the power behind it to just raw power fist through it. Do you know what I mean? You can just slam through it. I know Russ at Retro Game Court loves this for being able to do that.
That's interesting.
So yeah, the Steam Deck's brilliant if you want to save some money and you're playing really retro titles. But if you want to emulate the more like recent stuff, or just emulate those old titles for longer, then this is the way to go.
Yeah.
But
so I think totally recommend it. I can't believe we've been talking for as long as we have about our love for this. Yes. So thanks for bearing with us.
Yes.
What should they do, Andy?
They should like this video.
Yes.
They should. They should subscribe as well.
Definitely.
Yes. What else should they do?
You could consider joining channel memberships where you get to talk to us in our channel membership Discord. There's a lovely bunch of people in there, and you could be there too for just 99p.
Oh,
links
I like
below.
That. I like that.
So I guess that's us then.
Yes. Let us know if you've got one, if you're loving it still 6 months later, if you're on the fence of it, are you going to hold out for any of the other, options that are coming out next year by other manufacturers, or if you've bought a different handheld entirely? Let us know.
Is there anything else we should do with it as well?
Yeah.
Any other videos you want to see from us about the ROG Ally X? And I guess until the next time.
Bye.